I've often heard people talk about their finances as something that is complicated. They don't know where to start, and as a result, they don't have a clear plan on how to manage their money. In fact, a lot of people end up saving money and putting it in tax-saving investments, usually towards the end of the financial year. Or they look at the top-performing mutual funds and put money in those. But that's not the most efficient way of managing your investments. In fact, before you get to the investment stage, you have to do something far more basic. You have to identify why you need the money, how much money you need, and when you need it by. To talk about the goal-setting exercise and to talk about what follows that, I have with me Anant Ladha, who is the founder of Invest Aaj For Kal. Thank you so much, Anant, for taking the time. I want to start by asking, why is it so important to go through this goal-setting exercise? And is this the first step that you take in your personal finance journey?
Hi, Alex. See, I would like to explain it with a small example. Recently, I was standing near Juhu Circle. There was a person who came to me and he asked me that, where is this road going? And I was like that this road is heading towards Borivali. Then he asked me that, where is this road going? And I was like, this way, if you go on this direction, this will take you towards Juhu Beach. Then he asked me that, where is this road going? And I was like, this will take you towards South Mumbai. Again, he asked me, where is this road heading towards? And I got irritated at this time. And I asked him that, where do you want to go? And he was like that, he don't know where he want to go. So my answer was very simple, that you can take any road, you will reach somewhere or the else. In the same way, in financial life, if we don't have our financial goals, we can invest in any asset class, but we don't know that whether we will reach to our desired goal or not. Goal basically help us in three ways. Firstly, it sets accountability for us. Even if we miss our goal by some margin, we know that why we are missing that goal and we can make some adjustment. Secondly, it helps us know that what we actually want from our financial life. And finally, it motivates us during market corrections. Right now, market has almost corrected 12 to 14% from the top. And there might be some panic selling which might be happening. But if you have a goal in mind, probably you will always zoom out. I always say this thing, whenever in doubt, zoom out and see the bigger picture. And your goal will help you to do that.
So that's very well put. You had an incredible amount of patience, I must say, in that experience that you had, because I would have asked probably after the second road towards Juhu Beach, or maybe I'd have walked with him to Juhu Beach. But, going to the next stage, you've talked about goal setting. How do you go about setting those goals? Because you need to know what you want to do, right, with your money. Sometimes you're not clear. Suppose when you're 25, you don't really know where you're going in life. Even earlier, when you start your career, you're not even sure if you're going to stick with this job for the next few years. So how do you set a goal that could take you through the rest of your life?
See, I can truly understand that your goal might change after every 3 or 4 years, and it is absolutely okay. But setting some basic picture is always worth it. If I talk about some basics, you can probably set your goal and define 2 important criteria about each of your goals. I know if you are young, you are 24, 25, might be you don't have clarity that what all goals you have in life. But whatever clarity you have right now, you can set that as basic and you can start setting your goals. Firstly, you have to define your time horizon. For example, if your goal is short term, which is equal to almost 3 years, up to 3 years, medium term, if your goal is up to maybe 3 to 7 years, and long term, if your goal is more than 7 years and you have more than 7 years to invest for that goal, then you can say that you are investing for a particular goal, which is long term. Second, you have to define priority of a goal. There can be a goal which is high priority, medium priority, and low priority. High priority goals are goals which are non-negotiable. For example, your retirement, you have to properly plan for it. Your child's education, you have to properly plan for it, and you cannot have some negotiation over there. Second are medium importance or medium priority goals. These are important goals, but some amount of flexibility is there. For example, buying a home, probably you can delay it by few months, few years if you are missing your target, or maybe planning for your child's marriage. These are medium priority goals. Finally, there are goals which are low priority. For example, buying a luxury car or going on a world tour. So these are low priority goals. So you have to define each of your goal in dual perspective. Firstly is the time horizon, second is the priority. Even if you are not clear about all of your goals, every year you have to review your goal planning, and probably you can add on some of the goals, and you can remove some of the goals which you think that you have already taken care of with your regular income. And you can absolutely make changes to your goals. It is your goal after all. You can obviously amend it whenever you want to.
Often when you're faced with a complicated problem, it helps to break it down into parts that are easy to understand. So I think this is one step in that direction, right? Because while we say that it's not rocket science, it's not very complicated, it can get a little complicated when you're deciding how to manage your money. Now, having said that, you've said that you need to sit down, and it's as simple as that. You don't need an Excel spreadsheet to identify this. Sit down, if you're married, sit down with your partner, take a pen and paper and identify what your goals are. Now, how do you decide how to achieve these goals, which comes to the next stage, right? Would you say that each of these goals will require an asset allocation strategy? Now, the reason I ask this is that often people talk about, okay, at a portfolio level, I need to have 60% equity, 30% debt, and 10% gold. And so they say, oh, but why do I need to have individual asset allocation for each of my goals? Won't that throw everything out of gear?
Firstly, you mentioned a very beautiful point that investing is very simple. It is absolutely simple. And whenever you feel that your investing process is getting complicated, probably you are on the wrong track. There is a very beautiful concept, which I call it as KISS principle. Keep it simple and silly when you are investing. So you have to keep it very simple. There is no rocket science, but it will not be easy to execute because it will require some discipline. And if you talk about risk profiling and asset allocation, firstly, you have to do your overall risk profiling and asset allocation. You have to understand your asset, your liabilities, your regular flow of income, your expenses, what is your age. Based on everything, you have to decide your overall risk profiling. Then, based on the time horizon of your goal, and secondly, based on the priority of your goal, you have to do risk profiling and asset allocation on goal wise. This will probably even simplify the process for you and help you reach your goal very easily. So yes, I think you should eventually start doing your asset allocation for your each goal.
Tell me why that is necessary, because Anant, if you're talking about it, and let's illustrate this, right? Let's talk about retirement, because that is something that everybody has to plan for, which is a non-negotiable goal. At some point in our lives, we'll stop earning a paycheck and we have to take care of our lives post that. And ideally, we would like to take care of ourselves and not depend on our children to do it, right? So let's talk about retirement as a non-negotiable goal. Why is it that you need to have asset allocation strategy? If I'm young enough, I have a decent horizon, it's 7 years plus, I can put all my money into equity. What is wrong with that?
See, let us simplify it even further, and it's a very beautiful question. Firstly, if you are doing your retirement planning, let us classify this goal as a let us classify this goal. Firstly, this is a long-term goal because I am assuming that you are regularly watching Alex and ET now, and you are planning for your finances well in advance. That is why it is a long-term goal. Plus, it is a high priority goal, as you rightly mentioned. Now, we have to see that what is my overall risk profile. Suppose if my overall risk profile is aggressive, then probably I can invest 75% of my capital, which I want to allocate for this retirement goal in equity, and balance I can have a combination of debt and gold. For the sake of simplicity, let us keep 25% in debt for the time being. But if my overall mindset, according to which I react during difficult situation, and according to my liabilities and assets which I already have, if my overall risk profiling is moderate, even after knowing that your retirement goal is more than 7 years, 10 years, or maybe 15 years down the line, but since you know that you are emotionally not that sound as of now, or maybe you have some financial commitment because of which you need some kind of security, then even for retirement goal, you have to invest around 50, 55, 60% in equity, and balance you have to keep in debt. And finally, if you are a very conservative investor, you are a completely FD investor, and finally, for the first time, you are thinking of investing in index funds and mutual funds, and you are very pessimistic about the returns and volatility, then probably you should start with 40% equity or 45% equity and balance in debt. So your overall risk profiling will even guide your goal-wise risk profiling and asset allocation. So this is how you have to manage it and plan it accordingly.
But I have a question about this. Let's take the same illustration, okay? Let's assume that an individual identifies, and there are various calculators that they can use. They can use inflation. They can look at how much they're spending on a monthly basis, and they can inflate it over a period of time, right? And usually these inflation calculators tend to scare me. I don't know if my viewers also get a little scared and worried about that, because it is a large number that you need to save. But let's, for the sake of argument, say that somebody who's retiring in 20 years' time will need a corpus of 7 crore rupees, okay? Wouldn't it change the dynamic if they are moderate versus aggressive versus conservative? At what point they reach that goal?
Absolutely. If not the time dynamic, probably they will have to invest more if they are conservative in this case. And it is very important. I will share you very practical example which happened with a lot of people. From 2015 to 2020, if you check the data, there also you will find this complete thing which I am trying to discuss. Many people were doing regular SIPs and they were regularly investing, but in the COVID fall, because they were conservative or maybe moderate investor, but because they were wanting some extra risk and some extra returns and they were highly exposed to equity, they redeemed all of their equity at probably 2013 levels, So they made a loss even after investing in 5 years because their asset allocation was not sound to their risk profiling. To avoid such extreme situation, it is always better to follow asset allocation strategy. Also, in long term, when you evaluate different asset classes, you will find that by taking some extra risk, probably by increasing your equity allocation by some amount, the amount of risk which you add to your portfolio is significantly higher. There is no free lunch in this world. I always say one thing, that in this world, only one thing is free. That is your mother's love. Other than that, nothing is free. For every additional return which you are targeting, you have to take some exponential extra risk. So having a risk-adjusted balanced portfolio is always a better concept.
Okay, very well put. What happens in a situation where you have identified that you have, say, 40,000 rupees that you can invest or 30,000 rupees that you can invest on a monthly basis? You have a certain number of goals that you want to achieve. You identify that you need 15,000 rupees to achieve this 7 crore corpus over a period of time. You only have 15,000 rupees left over, but you have one non-negotiable goal and one negotiable goal or two negotiable goals. How do you arrange that? Because you have a limited amount of money. I wish we had more, but you have a limited amount of money and you want to achieve all of your goals. How do you plan that?
Always we have to start with non-negotiable goals, and once we start saving properly, investing properly for our non-negotiable goals, we can prioritize our goal list and start hitting the other goals as well.
Simple answer to that question. Once you reach closer to your goal, now assume in our example that this individual has saved diligently over a period of 25 years, has reached a sizable corpus, because of his allocation of, say he's an aggressive investor and he's invested a significant portion in equity, he's also put debt. So 75-25 equity debt. He's reaching close to his goal of retirement. At what point does he start becoming a little bit more conservative and pushing money out of equity, because there is a significant amount of volatility? Even in the current point, you've just pointed out that equity markets have declined significantly. So how do they manage that?
Let us keep it very simple as always. Very first thing which you have to define for your goal is the time horizon.
Right.
When your time horizon has reduced from probably 20 years to 3 years, now it is a short-term goal. Your short-term goal has to be in debt. So slowly you have to start parking your money from equity. You can use STPs or you can use SWPs for that matter, and slowly redeem your equity funds and start allocating more towards debt fund. Just follow basics. Always prioritize your goal. Secondly, always define the time horizon for your goal, and always remember your overall risk profiling. These three simple things will always help you reach your goal.
When you look at a corpus, if you've been investing for 5 or 6 years, I think Anant will agree the advantage of having an asset allocation strategy, especially for your big goals, is that when there's a significant deviation, if the market falls dramatically and that 75 becomes 65, then you can adjust it and bring it to 75 and you're buying automatically at the dips. So,
Absolutely.
right? So that's a great strategy to have. The other thing I wanted to ask is, we've not spoken in terms of diversification of your overall portfolio. People say, or rather experts like yourself say, that it's good to have a diversified portfolio. You talk about assets like gold, you talk about assets like international equity. How do you bring that into the picture? Do you look at your overall asset allocation or overall portfolio and have some amount set aside for these?
Can I share a small example over
Of course,
here, if you're okay?
Of course.
So while doing diversification, what I have usually seen is investors see that what has performed in last 10 years and they start running after it. I'll just give an example. From 1970s to 1980s, gold was outperforming. But if we check 1980s to 1990s, gold underperformed and Japan market was outperforming. Now, if someone has invested based on 1980s to 90s return of Japan market, from 1990s to 2000, Japan market was underperforming and US market started outperforming. If I talk about period from 2000 to 2010, US market was underperforming and emerging markets like India outperformed complete asset classes. If we talk about 2010 to 2020, now US market is outperforming and India has underperformed in that decade. My simple point is, in asset allocation, you have to see what suits you the best. If you want to have some allocation in gold, probably you can have 5% allocation in gold. If you have a goal, for example, marriage, and you come from a traditional family where amount of gold which is needed during marriage is high, you can set some extra goal for that particular goal. If your corpus is sufficient, by sufficient, I mean that at least your corpus is more than 30-35 lakh and you want to do diversification and in US market or international market, probably you can use some index fund, maximum to the tune of 5 to 10% at max. Over diversification also hurt, but having some amount of diversification between equities, debt, international equities, gold can help you.
People who are getting married, and Anant, this is also an important stage, right? I'm hoping that my viewers have been listening to this program or watching this program, listening to experts like yourself, and they've started a while back. Maybe some of them are getting married. So this is a combination then of a couple of individual goals or several individual goals, and you have joint goals as well. How do you put both of them together, and how do you ensure that some goals on the individual side don't get left out?
The very first point here is you have to discuss your goal with your better half. I know that we have discussed our emotional pointers, we have discussed our families, but usually we don't discuss our finances. It is always better that you clearly mention to your better half that you have this goals, you have this aspirations, and then it is always easy to plan for it. It will even increase the level of trust amongst you. It is difficult. I know initially it is very difficult to show your finances to anyone for that matter, but try and take this step. If you are facing some conflicts while planning your finances, you can decide that for our mutual goals, both of us will save this much amount of money. For our expenses, I will take care of all the expenses, or anyone can take care of all the expenses and he can set this amount. Now he can have some XYZ amount, which is his free amount. He can do whatever he want to do. He can achieve any aspiration. He or she can achieve any aspiration, what he or she desires. And the other half will not argue on that point, because all the important goals and all the priority goals are taken care of. All the expenses are taken care of. So this is how this is something which every individual, every couple has to sit down, discuss, and always discuss finances with your better half.
Think of it like a waterfall. You hit the most important points first, and then whatever is left behind, you can do with what you want. And in fact, Anand, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about in the next segment, which is how to have discretionary spending without guilt, guilt-free spending. How do you achieve that? Is that even possible in our lives? Thank you so much, Anand, for taking the time. It's been an insightful conversation.
Thank you so much, Alex, for having me on the show. Thank you.